My dearest Martha, November 17, 1944. Somewhere in France. I'm writing this by candlelight in what used to be someone's kitchen. There's still a child's drawing on the wall, a house, a son, a family. I keep staring at it while I try to find the words for what I need to tell you. They tell us not to think of them as human. The enemy. Jerry. Krauts. Just targets in gray uniforms. But tonight, Martha, tonight I held a boy, because that's what he was, just a boy. And I watched the light go out of his eyes while I tried desperately to save him. His name was Friedrich. He was 19 years old. And I need to tell you everything about it, because if I don't write it down, if I don't send it home to you, I'm afraid it'll eat me alive from the inside out. I got your last letter 3 days ago, 3 whole months after you wrote it. Can you believe that? The post follows us around Europe like a lost dog, always a few steps behind. But when those letters finally catch up, Martha, it's like breathing fresh air after being underwater too long. You told me about little Lucia's first word. Papa. You said she looked right at your photograph on the mantel and said, Papa, clear as day. God, Martha, I've been gone so long she probably won't even recognize me when I get back. She'll be walking and talking and I'm missing all of it. I'm missing her childhood for this, for mud and blood and mountains that all look the same after a while. You asked me in your letter what it's really like over here. You said the newsreels make it look so clean, so heroic. Men charging forward with flags and determination, triumphant music playing while we liberate grateful villages. You wanted to know the truth, you said, not the propaganda version they show in the theaters back home. I haven't known how to tell you. How do I describe the smell of a battlefield 3 days after the fighting stopped? How do I explain what a man sounds like when he's calling for his mother in a language you don't understand, but somehow you understand it perfectly anyway? How do I write about the cold that gets so deep into your bones you think you'll never be warm again, even if you live to be 100? But after last night, after what happened with Friedrich, I think I need to try. I need to tell someone, and you're the only person in the world I trust with this. The only person who might understand, or at least not judge me for feeling the way I do about it. Let me start 6 days ago, November 16th, 1944. We'd been pushing through the Vosges Mountains in eastern France for 2 weeks straight. Beautiful country, Martha. Even in war, even with half of it destroyed, it's beautiful. Rolling hills covered in pine forests that remind me of the pictures in those storybooks your mother used to read to us. Little villages with church steeples and cobblestone streets, and houses with flower boxes in the windows. Except half those churches don't have roofs anymore. The cobblestones are cratered from artillery shells, and the flower boxes are full of rubble instead of geraniums. We were part of the push to break through to the Rhine. The brass says if we can get to the river before winter really sets in, we might be able to end this thing by Christmas. They've been saying that since Sicily, though, so nobody really believes it anymore. We just put one foot in front of the other and try not to think too far ahead. 32 men in my company at the start of the Italian campaign. Now, 14 of us left from the original group. Some went home in boxes. Some went home missing pieces of themselves, arms, legs, eyes, pieces of their minds. Some just went home inside their own heads, if you know what I mean. Eyes open, but nobody home anymore. The things they saw just broke something inside them that can't be fixed. The replacements they send us get younger every month. Fresh-faced kids straight out of basic training, still excited about the whole thing, still talking about glory and doing their duty. Give them a week in combat and they don't talk like that anymore. 2 weeks if they're lucky enough to survive that long. That morning, November 16th, Sergeant Murphy pulled me aside during breakfast. You remember me telling you about Murphy in my other letters? The guy from Texas with the terrible jokes and the scar across his chin from Sicily? He's kept more of us alive than anyone else in this company. Good soldier, better man. He looked tired that morning, Martha. We all look tired now, but this was different. Like he could see something coming that the rest of us couldn't. He told me I was on point that day. Said intelligence reported the Germans were pulling back to their winter defensive line, that we probably wouldn't see much resistance. But his eyes told a different story. His eyes said he didn't trust it, said it felt too quiet, too easy. When's it ever actually quiet in war? When's anything actually easy? He put his hand on my shoulder, I can still feel the weight of it, and told me to watch myself out there. Told me my little girl needs her father to come home. It's funny the things that stick with you. The way he said needs instead of wants, like it wasn't optional, like I didn't have permission to die. I wish I could tell you I felt brave walking point that morning. I wish I could tell you I was thinking about duty and honor and all those words they use in the recruitment posters. But the truth is, Martha, I was just scared. Same as I am every morning. Same as I've been since the first time someone shot at me in Sicily, and I realized that I could actually die here. That I might never see you or Lucia again. That all those dreams we had, the house in Queens, Sunday dinners with both our families, teaching our daughter to ride a bicycle, all of it could just end with a bullet I never even heard coming. But you don't get to be scared, not where anyone can see it. So you swallow it down, and you check your rifle one more time, and you move out at 0600 hours, like you've done 100 times before. The cold that morning was unbelievable. I know you get cold in New York in November, but this was different. This was the kind of cold that makes you feel like your bones are made of ice. Your feet go numb in your boots within the first hour. Your fingers stop working right, and you're terrified you won't be able to pull the trigger if you need to. You start thinking you'd rather get shot than spend another hour freezing like this. Be careful what you wish for. We moved through the forest in a long column, 40 men spread out, keeping interval, trying not to bunch up in case of artillery. The fog was thick as soup. Couldn't see more than 20 yards ahead. Every shadow looked like an enemy soldier. Every snap of a twig made your heart jump into your throat. I remember thinking about you right before it happened, wondering what you were doing at that exact moment. Would have been the middle of the night back home. You were probably asleep in our bed with Lucia in her crib next to you, safe and warm. And here I was, half a world away, walking through fog in a French forest, wondering if I'd ever see that bedroom again. The first shots came around 8:30. We were moving through a clearing near a town whose name I can't even pronounce, something French with too many syllables. The fog had started to lift just enough that we could see the tree line on the far side, maybe 200 yards away. That's when I heard it. That sound you never forget once you've heard it. The chattering bark of a German MG-42 machine gun. We call it Hitler's buzzsaw because that's exactly what it sounds like. 1,200 rounds per minute. It can cut a man in half. The bullets came in so fast I didn't have time to think, just reacted. Hit the dirt so hard I bit through my tongue. Tasted blood for hours afterward. Men were yelling. The machine gun kept firing in bursts, sweeping across the clearing like someone watering a garden. Except the garden was full of American soldiers and the water was bullets. Murphy was shouting orders, telling some guys to lay down suppressing fire, telling me and another soldier, Jenkins, his name was Jenkins, to flank left and try to take out the machine gun nest. Jenkins was a good kid from Ohio, 20 years old, talked about his girlfriend back home constantly, showed me her picture so many times I could probably draw her face from memory. He'd bought her a ring in Paris, was planning to propose the minute he got home, had the whole thing planned out. He was going to take her to this Italian restaurant where they had their first date, get down on one knee right there at the table. We moved together, staying low, using the trees for cover, running in short bursts. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might explode. Jenkins was right next to me, keeping pace. I remember he looked over at me for just a second, and there was this wild look in his eyes, fear and adrenaline all mixed together. But he was moving, he was doing his job. We made it maybe 30 yards before the world exploded. Mortar shell. Must have been a spotter we didn't see calling in coordinates. It landed maybe 10 feet to our right. The concussion picked me up and threw me sideways into a ditch like I was a rag doll. Couldn't hear anything except this high-pitched ringing. Couldn't see anything except dirt and smoke and flashing lights that weren't really there. Felt like I was underwater, like I was drowning in air. I don't know how long I lay there. Probably only seconds, but it felt like hours. Slowly, my vision started to clear. The ringing in my ears started to fade just enough that I could hear other sounds: gunfire, men shouting, someone screaming. I rolled over and looked for Jenkins. He was lying about 5 feet away from me, not moving. His whole right side was... Martha, I can't describe it. I won't describe it. Just know that I crawled over to him and I tried to help him. I really did. But there was nothing I could do. He was already gone. Probably died instantly. That's what I tell myself anyway. That he didn't suffer. That he didn't have time to be scared. His girlfriend's never going to get that ring. She's going to get a telegram instead. We regret to inform you, and she'll probably never know that he talked about her constantly. That he loved her so much, he carried her picture through 3 countries. That his last words before the mortar hit were about being excited to see Paris again on the way home. I took the ring from his pocket, cleaned the blood off as best I could, put it in my own pocket. I'm going to mail it to his family when I get a chance. I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not, but it seemed better than leaving it there in the mud. The firefight lasted another 20 minutes, though it felt like hours. Time does strange things in combat, Martha. Sometimes it speeds up so fast you can't keep track. Sometimes it slows down so much that you can see individual bullets moving through the air. This was the slow kind. Every second stretched out forever. Eventually, we flanked them. The machine gun went quiet. Murphy led a squad forward to clear the position and secure it. That's when I heard something that made my blood run cold. Someone was crying. Not in English. German. Coming from somewhere nearby. Murphy told me to check it out, but to be careful. Could be a trap. Could be someone waiting with a grenade to take a few of us with him. It happens. Wounded soldiers who know they're not going to make it sometimes decide to take as many of the enemy as they can before they die. Can't really blame them, I guess. We'd probably do the same thing. I moved forward slowly, rifle ready, finger on the trigger, following the sound of crying through the torn-up landscape. And that's when I found the crater. Martha, I don't have the words to describe what I felt in that moment when I looked down into that crater and saw what was there. But I'm going to try, because I need you to understand. I need someone to understand why I did what I did next. The mortar that nearly killed me, the one that killed Jenkins, it must have come from a German position nearby. Our return fire had found them. There was a crater maybe 15 feet across, still smoking. 3 German soldiers in it. 2 of them were clearly dead. One was lying face down, perfectly still. The other was on his back, eyes open, staring at nothing. They'd probably died instantly when the shell hit. Probably never knew what was happening. But the third one was alive, and he was looking right at me. I'll never forget that moment, Martha. Never. It's burned into my brain like a photograph, like that picture of us on our wedding day that I carry in my wallet. Except, this isn't a happy memory. This is the kind of memory that wakes you up at 3 a.m. in a cold sweat. He was half buried in dirt and debris. Lying on his back, his left leg twisted at an angle that legs aren't supposed to twist. Even from where I was standing, I could see the dark stains spreading across his gray uniform. Blood. So much blood. Shrapnel wounds across his chest and stomach. His face was covered in dirt and soot, but I could still see his features clearly. Could still see his eyes. And Martha, his eyes were the worst part. They were wide open, filled with tears that were cutting clean tracks through the dirt on his face. He was staring up at the sky like he was looking for something, God maybe, or his mother, or just an answer to why this was happening to him. He was trying to say something. His lips were moving, forming words over and over again. I couldn't hear him at first, so I got closer to the edge of the crater. That's when I heard it clearly. Mutter, bitte. I don't speak German, Martha, but I didn't need to. I understood him perfectly. He was calling for his mother, begging for her, the same way Lucia calls for you when she wakes up scared in the middle of the night. And I just stood there, frozen, looking down at this dying kid. And he was a kid, Martha, couldn't have been older than 19 or 20, and everything they'd taught us in training, everything they'd drilled into us about the enemy, about staying hard, about not feeling anything, all of it just evaporated like morning fog. This wasn't a Nazi. This wasn't some evil soldier trying to conquer the world. This wasn't even really a soldier. This was just a scared boy, dying alone in a hole, crying for his mother, and I couldn't just walk away. Murphy came up beside me, looked down into the crater. I could feel his eyes on me, waiting to see what I'd do. Behind us, the rest of the squad was securing the area, checking the other bodies, making sure there weren't any more surprises waiting for us. I remember Murphy saying something about how we needed to move, that there could be more German soldiers nearby, that we had orders to keep pushing forward. But then he looked at me, really looked at me, and I think he saw something in my face that made him stop talking. He told me that wounded prisoners were supposed to go to the rear echelon if we could stabilize them. Asked me if I thought I could stabilize him. We both knew what he was really asking. We both knew the answer. But Murphy's a good man. He was giving me permission to try anyway. I told him I'd try, and I slid down into that crater before I could change my mind. The German soldier, I didn't know his name was Friedrich yet. He saw me coming down, saw the American uniform, and Martha, the look on his face, it was pure terror. He thought I was coming to finish him off, thought I was coming to put a bullet in him while he was helpless and bleeding out. He tried to move, tried to get away from me, but he couldn't even lift his head more than a few inches. His body wasn't working anymore. All he could do was lie there and wait for whatever I was going to do to him. I held up my hands, showing him they were empty. No weapon, no grenade, just my hands. I moved slowly, carefully, like you'd approach a wounded animal, kept talking to him in a low, calm voice, even though I knew he probably couldn't understand the words. Easy, easy, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm trying to help, you understand? Help. His eyes followed every movement I made, still terrified, still waiting for the bullet that didn't come. I could see him trembling, couldn't tell if it was from fear or shock or the cold. Probably all three. I got out my medical kit, the little canvas pouch every infantryman carries with bandages and sulfa powder and morphine syrettes, started trying to assess his wounds, trying to figure out where to even start. It was bad, Martha, worse than I'd thought from up top. The shrapnel had torn through his stomach and chest in multiple places. There was so much blood soaking into the dirt beneath him that it was turning to mud. His breathing was shallow and rapid, the kind of breathing that means someone's body is going into shock, shutting down, getting ready to die. I'd seen enough wounds by that point in the war to know what this meant. I'd seen enough men die to recognize when someone was too far gone. But I had to try. I couldn't just sit there and watch him bleed out without at least trying to do something. I started packing the worst of the wounds with sulfa powder, trying to stop the bleeding or at least slow it down. My hands were shaking. Don't know if that was from the adrenaline or the cold or just the weight of what I was doing. Trying to save the life of someone I might have been shooting at an hour earlier, someone whose friends had just killed Jenkins, someone who would have killed me if he'd had the chance. But none of that seemed to matter right then. All that mattered was this kid in front of me, gasping for breath, tears still streaming down his face, calling for his mother in a language I didn't speak but understood perfectly. His breathing was getting worse, coming in short, sharp gasps. Each one seemed like it might be the last. His skin was going gray. His lips were turning blue. All the signs I'd learned to recognize, all the signs that said I was losing him no matter what I did. And then he looked at me, really looked at me, made eye contact. And there was this moment, I don't know how to describe it, Martha, where something passed between us, some kind of understanding. He realized I was actually trying to help him, that I wasn't there to hurt him, that maybe in the middle of all this insanity, there was still such a thing as mercy. He spoke. His voice was barely a whisper, wet and ragged, but I heard him clearly. Why? That's what he was asking me. Why was I helping him? Why was an American soldier trying to save the life of a German soldier? Why was I showing him kindness when we were supposed to be enemies? How do you answer that question, Martha? In the middle of a war where we're supposed to be killing each other, where his countrymen had just killed my friend, where my bullets might have been the ones that killed his buddies lying dead next to him. How do you explain why you're trying to save someone's life? I didn't have an answer, not one that made sense anyway. So I just kept working, kept trying to stop the bleeding that wouldn't stop, kept talking to him in English even though he probably didn't understand most of it, just kept talking because I thought maybe the sound of a human voice might help, might make him feel less alone. You're gonna be okay. Just stay with me, all right? Just keep breathing. Help is coming. You're gonna see your family again. Just hold on. I was lying. We both knew it. But sometimes a lie is kinder than the truth. I found his identification papers in his inside jacket pocket, tried not to look at the blood soaking through the fabric, pulled out a small bundle of documents, the papers every German soldier carries, Soldbuch, I think they call it. That's how I learned his name. Friedrich Bauer. Born June 3rd, 1925, 19 years old, from Heidelberg, blood type A, Protestant, conscripted into the Wehrmacht in January 1943, assigned to the 19th Volksgrenadier Division. 19 years old, Martha. Just a kid, younger than me. Same age I was when you and I met at that dance in Brooklyn. Same age I was when I thought I knew everything and the world was full of possibilities. Before the war, before any of this. There was a photograph tucked in with his papers, creased and stained with blood, but you could still make out the image, a family portrait. Mother sitting in a chair, father standing behind her with his hand on her shoulder. Two younger girls, sisters, maybe 12 and 14, standing on either side. Everyone dressed in their best clothes, everyone smiling for the camera. One of those formal portraits families get taken at a photography studio. Taken before the war, probably. Before everything went to hell. Before fathers and sons started leaving and not coming back. Friedrich's hand, trembling, so weak he could barely move it, reached for the photograph. His fingers touched it, left a small smear of blood on the corner. His lips moved, forming a word I couldn't hear at first. I leaned closer. Family. Family. God, Martha. In that moment, he wasn't my enemy. He wasn't a German soldier or a Nazi or any of the things we call them to make it easier to kill them. He was just me. Just a guy far from home, missing his family, wanting more than anything to see them again. Probably got drafted just like I did. Probably didn't want to be here any more than I did. Probably had dreams and plans that didn't involve dying in a crater in France at 19 years old. We're not so different, you know? The boys in gray and the boys in green. Strip away the uniforms and the flags and the propaganda, and we're all just somebody's son, somebody's brother, somebody's husband or father. We all bleed the same. We all cry for our mothers when we're scared and hurt. We all want to go home. We're all just trying to survive long enough to see our families again. I looked at that photograph, at Friedrich's mother and father and sisters, and I thought about his mother getting a telegram just like the one Jenkins' girlfriend is going to get. We regret to inform you that your son, and she'll never know that he died crying for her, that he spent his last minutes looking at her photograph, that a stranger tried to save him and failed. She'll never know that he wasn't alone at the end. Murphy came down into the crater with me after a few minutes, knelt down beside me, looked at Friedrich's wounds, then looked at me with this expression I'll never forget. Sad, knowing. The look of someone who's seen too many men die and knows exactly what it looks like. He didn't have to say anything. I knew what he was thinking. Friedrich wasn't going to make it, even if we could get a medic there in the next 5 minutes, which we couldn't, even if we could evacuate him to a field hospital, which we couldn't. He'd lost too much blood. The wounds were too severe. He was already dying. Had been dying from the moment the shrapnel tore through him. All I was doing was delaying the inevitable. But I couldn't stop. Couldn't just stand up and walk away and leave him there to die alone. Something in me wouldn't let me do it. Murphy understood. He's a good man, Martha. Better than most. He told me he'd give me 10 minutes, then we had to move. The war doesn't stop for anything, not even for mercy. So I sat there in that crater with Friedrich, sat in the mud and the blood, still trying to pack his wounds, even though we both knew it wasn't going to help. And after a minute, I stopped pretending I was trying to save him, stopped working on the wounds, just sat with him, put my hand on his shoulder, let him know someone was there. His breathing was getting shallower, slower, the pauses between breaths getting longer each time. The light in his eyes was starting to fade. That's what it looks like when someone's dying, Martha. The light just goes out, like someone turning off a lamp. But he kept trying to say something, kept forcing words out between gasps, kept trying even though it was clearly causing him pain. I leaned down close to hear him. Sag. Meiner Mutter. A long pause, a wet, rattling breath. Es tut mir leid. I didn't understand the words. Murphy did, though. He'd picked up some German from interrogating prisoners. Later, after we'd moved out, after I'd climbed out of that crater and left Friedrich's body behind, Murphy told me what he'd been trying to say. Tell my mother, I'm sorry. Sorry for what, Martha? Sorry for dying? Sorry for not coming home? Sorry for whatever he'd had to do in this war? 19 years old, and his last words were an apology. An apology to a mother who wasn't there and would never know he'd said it. An apology to a family he'd never see again. What kind of world have we created, Martha? What kind of world takes 19-year-old boys and puts rifles in their hands and sends them off to kill other 19-year-old boys? What kind of world makes dying children apologize for dying? He died at 0947 hours, November 16th, 1944. I know the exact time because I checked my watch afterward. Don't know why. Felt like someone should mark the moment, someone should remember exactly when Friedrich Bauer stopped existing. I'd been holding his hand for the last 6 minutes, didn't even realize I'd taken his hand until it went limp in mine, until I felt his fingers relax and his arm go heavy and his chest stop rising. I sat there for another minute after he was gone, just sat there looking at his face, at how young he looked, at how he almost looked peaceful now that the pain was over. The fear was gone from his eyes, just empty now, just a body. The person who'd been Friedrich, who'd had thoughts and feelings and dreams and fears, was gone. All that was left was meat and bone and blood. I closed his eyes. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely do it. Put the photograph of his family back in his jacket pocket, right over his heart where he'd tried to reach it at the end. Folded his hands across his chest. Said a prayer, the same one my mama taught me when I was a kid, the one she learned from her mother back in Italy. The one I've said over too many bodies now. Then, I climbed out of that crater and picked up my rifle and kept fighting the war. Because that's what you do. The war doesn't stop. Men are dying all around you on both sides, but the war doesn't stop. You don't get time to grieve or process or make sense of it. You just keep going, keep moving, keep fighting. Because if you stop, if you think too hard about what just happened, you might not be able to start moving again. So you swallow it down and you push it somewhere deep inside and you keep going. And you write letters home in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, trying to make sense of things that don't make sense. We took the town by nightfall. The official report will say we liberated it, clean, heroic, the kind of word officers like to use. But liberation isn't clean. We fought block by block while the Germans held us off for nearly 3 hours before retreating. By the end, half the town was on fire, and only 37 civilians were left alive, hiding in cellars. They came out shaking, clutching bottles of wine they had hidden from the Germans. They kissed our cheeks, called us heroes, said they'd prayed for the Americans to come. And I stood there letting them thank me while Friedrich's blood was still on my hands, dried under my fingernails, staining my uniform. They saw a liberator. I felt nothing except the memory of his face and the sound of him calling for his mother as he died in my arms. That night I tried to write to you, but the words wouldn't come. How do I explain that I tried to save the life of someone I was supposed to kill? How do I tell you I watched a kid die while he stared at a picture of his family? I stared at that blank page for an hour before something in me finally broke open and everything spilled out. Months of things I'd been too afraid to admit even to myself. I've killed people, Martha. I don't know how many. Sicily, Italy, France. I pulled the trigger, watched men fall, and told myself it was necessary. Duty, survival, freedom, all the things they tell us we're fighting for. But I never truly saw them until Friedrich. Never let myself imagine that every man I killed was someone's son or brother, maybe someone's father, someone who had a family waiting for him the same way you and Lucia wait for me. You can't think about that in combat. If you do, you freeze, and freezing gets you killed. So you shut it off. You don't picture the telegram being delivered. You don't imagine the empty seat at a dinner table. You don't think about the hole you're creating in a stranger's life. You just keep moving. But now I can't stop thinking about it, about all the other Friedrichs who died before I could see them as human, the ones who died with my bullets in them, calling for their mothers in languages I barely understand, but recognize all too well. I know what you'd say, that these are the people who started the war, who followed Hitler, who did terrible things, and you're right. Some were fanatics. Some deserved whatever came to them. But I don't think Friedrich was one of them. He was just a kid drafted into a nightmare, handed a rifle, told to fight or watch his family suffer. He probably wanted nothing more than to go home to Heidelberg and live a normal life. Now, he's dead in a crater, and his mother will never know he didn't die alone. Never know that an enemy soldier held his hand, tried to save him, stayed with him until the end. I keep wondering if that would comfort her or make it worse, knowing he died crying for her and she wasn't there. I don't have answers. I'm just a corporal from Brooklyn trying to make sense of something senseless, trying to find meaning in a war that seems determined to grind the meaning out of everything. Murphy found me writing earlier, sat down next to me on the rubble without a word. We listened to the town settling, someone crying, someone else laughing hysterically, fires crackling in the dark. Finally, he said what I did in that crater was good, that most guys wouldn't have bothered. They'd have kept moving, telling themselves it wasn't their problem. I told him it didn't feel good. Friedrich still died. All I did was buy him a few minutes. Murphy shook his head, said those minutes mattered, said Friedrich didn't die alone or terrified at the end. He died with someone treating him like a human being. And that had to count for something. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? What's the point of being human if we let war take that from us? He told me to hold on to that humanity, said this war will try to turn me into something hard and dead inside, something that can kill without feeling. Told me not to let it. Said moments like the one in that crater are how I make it home with my soul intact, how I come back to you and Lucia as someone you still recognize. I hope he's right, Martha. God, I hope he's right. So that's what happened, my darling. That's the truth I needed to tell you. I carried an enemy soldier, tried to anyway, and he died in my arms, calling for his mother while I told him lies meant to comfort him. I still don't know what I'm supposed to feel. Pride, guilt, sorrow, they all blur together and refuse to settle. That's the cruel math of war. There's never a right answer, never a clean choice, just decisions you make in seconds and carry for the rest of your life. You hope the weight doesn't break you before you find your way home. I need something from you, Martha, and I know it's strange. If I don't make it home, and I'm only being honest here, I want you to remember this story. Remember Friedrich Bauer from Heidelberg, 19 years old, died in a crater in France with an American soldier holding his hand. And when Lucia is old enough, tell her this story too. Tell her the world can be brutal and senseless, but we still get to choose who we are inside it. Tell her her father tried to be the kind of man who climbed into a crater to help a dying enemy, who tried to stop the bleeding even when there was no chance, who gave a scared boy a little dignity at the end. I hope it was the right choice. I think it was. But this war has stripped me of certainty. All I know is that if I can't show mercy to a dying kid, then I don't know what any of this fighting is for. Humanity has to matter, or none of it does. Dawn's breaking now, lights creeping across the ruins of this kitchen. We move out in an hour, another town, another ridge, another fight. The war doesn't wait for grief or reflection. It keeps grinding ahead, swallowing boys on both sides, and I march with it whether I'm ready or not. But I'll carry Friedrich with me, not as a burden, but as a reminder. A reminder that behind every uniform is a person with a family who loves them. That even in hell, someone has to see the humanity in the men we're told to kill. Maybe remembering him will help me hold on to the pieces of myself that haven't been consumed yet, the pieces that still feel and still believe kindness isn't weakness. I'll try to be a good man in a terrible situation, try to make choices I can live with, try to come home with something of my soul left intact. It's all I can do. Kiss Lucia for me. Tell her Papa loves her more than anything, that I carry her picture over my heart and look at it whenever I'm scared or exhausted. Tell her I'm trying every day to be someone she can be proud of, someone who didn't let war turn him cold. Some days I feel like I'm failing, like pieces of me are being scraped away with every firefight, like I'm becoming someone neither of you will recognize. But I'm trying, Martha. God knows I'm trying. I love you with everything this war hasn't stolen. I miss you. I dream of the day I can hold you instead of writing letters across an ocean. Until that day comes, I remain. Forever yours, Anthony. Dawn's breaking now, lights creeping across the ruins of this kitchen. We move out in an hour, another town, another ridge, another fight. The war doesn't wait for grief or reflection. It keeps grinding ahead, swallowing boys on both sides, and I march with it whether I'm ready or not. But I'll carry Friedrich with me, not as a burden, but as a reminder. A reminder that behind every uniform is a person with a family who loves them. That even in hell, someone has to see the humanity in the men we're told to kill. Maybe remembering him will help me hold on to the pieces of myself that haven't been consumed yet, the pieces that still feel and still believe kindness isn't weakness. I'll try to be a good man in a terrible situation, try to make choices I can live with, try to come home with something of my soul left intact. It's all I can do. Kiss Lucia for me. Tell her Papa loves her more than anything, that I carry her picture over my heart and look at it whenever I'm scared or exhausted. Tell her I'm trying every day to be someone she can be proud of, someone who didn't let war turn him cold. Some days I feel like I'm failing, like pieces of me are being scraped away with every firefight, like I'm becoming someone neither of you will recognize. But I'm trying, Martha. God knows I'm trying. I love you with everything this war hasn't stolen. I miss you. I dream of the day I can hold you instead of writing letters across an ocean. Until that day comes, I remain. Forever yours, Anthony.